Hey, speaking of climate change zealotry, have a look at this simple question that was asked in the Senate today by Pauline Hanson and the non-answer.
Would the Minister please explain to the Australian people and what net zero emissions actually means in layman's terms?
I'm not sure how to explain it other than to say it means net zero. I mean, I think, and I understand that the senator. It's one of those situations. I'll think through if I can provide an explanation to make it clearer than that. But to me, the words net zero are quite clear. I will have a think about that. I think it's a commonly understood objective, and it's an objective that, as the senator knows, that is shared by those opposite, I thought.
Please explain, hey? Penny Wong didn't explain the disdain they show for anybody who doesn't sign on to their moral, environmental, religious crusade. Senator Wong didn't explain net zero. She mocked Senator Hanson for wanting to know or for not knowing herself, but there was no attempt to explain to voters in plain terms what this is all about. Net zero. We're supposed to embrace it as some sort of sacred goal without anyone explaining what it might look like. Now, presumably, if we all went home, pretended it was another Victorian lockdown, all went home right across this whole country and sat down and switched off all our lights and our appliances, didn't cook anything, didn't drive our cars, every factory, every shop, every transport network in the country shut down too, we'd all be sitting in the quiet, in the dark. Would that be net zero? Would we have met net zero for that moment? Or would we still be adding CO2 through all our livestock? Would we have to get the farmers to go out and kill all the country's sheep and cattle and chooks and pigs? Would we be at net zero then? This is obviously absurd, but it does raise the question, doesn't it, about what does net zero actually look like? If every bit of CO2 emitted is soaked up somewhere else, do I have to account for the CO2 I breathe out? Will we never have zero emissions? As you know, we will never have zero emissions in our power industry or transport or construction. It's impossible. So how are we going to abate the emissions that occur in those industries? How about agriculture? We can't have net zero there either. How will we abate the emissions in agriculture? And the Labor Party won't consider nuclear energy either. So there's a lot of explaining to do. But the government doesn't want to explain it, either because they can't or because they know the detail will be ridiculous and frightening.